Fam, good morning. What's going on? It is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. Could I get a roll tide inside the comment box? I appreciate you guys being here. Today is the Monday show. We're going to talk about the updated top 25 rankings. We're going to go over my top 10 as of this point in time. We're going to go on upon further review against South Carolina, the facts about this game, all right, and the facts about this team, all right? We're going to talk about facts, okay? We're going to go over Pro Football Focus grades. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to talk about some issues, but I want some feedback, and I want to talk about, some issues that you see with this team. But we are going to provide facts, and I think kind of coming into this show, I was thinking about, I thought about Saturday's game, and I was thinking about kind of the direction of this team and where things are at with Coach Kalen DeBoer, and I read a lot of comments and I read a lot of feedback, and I'm going to take your guys' calls today as well. So I'll put the call-up banner on, and we'll play some Monday morning quarterback. But as I thought about this team and reading the comments on our Facebook channel and right here on YouTube within the comment box, there's so much optimism still for this team, and I was thinking, I was like, you know what, like, there's a right to have optimism today, right? I think when you zoom out, and that's why I want to talk about facts, because when we look at the facts and you kind of look at things as they are rather than like questioning things, you see that this team has won 5 games, right? You see that this team is ranked number 7 in the country. You see that there are positives with this team. So I'm going to take the positive approach today and the rest of the week. Now, I am going to ask you about issues, and it's okay to talk about issues with this team, but look, there's so much football to be played. The guy just got here. They're 5-1. They're number 7 in the country. And look, the way that college football is right now, I think, and we're going to get towards this in the back end of the show, is the direction of college football. And I've heard a lot of people say this. It's kind of going to the NFL type model in terms of what NIL has done to college football, right? And what that means is that games are more competitive than they used to be. Now, that doesn't still mean that, you lower your standards or expectations, but think about this, all right? For those of you that follow the NFL, okay? And look, I strive for greatness all the time. My expectations are really high all the time. But think about it. If you watch the NFL and your team right now at this point in time is 5-1, you are absolutely through the roof, because every single day, every single weekend, every single Sunday is a gauntlet, right? So NIL has certainly impacted college football. And right now where this team is, they're 5-1. They still control a lot of their own destiny. Now they have to continue to win just like all these other teams, but you've seen what's been going on in the SEC. You've seen tight games, right? Where we didn't used to see tight games. So I'm not saying to lower expectations, but I am asking you, I think we all need to continue to support Coach Kalen DeBoer and his team. And while the issues do start up top, I think he's coaching up football to get things on track, right? So that's kind of the opening. And let's look at the updated top 25. And by the way, let me know where you guys are coming from. I appreciate you guys being here today. Adam, what's going on? Lewis, North Alabama Storm Chase. North Alabama Storm Chase, I'll get your graphic up tomorrow for the weekend weather. I didn't even have time to look at it this morning. But I appreciate you all sending it in. So send it again tomorrow. Max Tooney, what's going on? Sully, good morning to you. Greg Jarvis up in the house. Jeff Stapleton, what's going on? I appreciate you guys being here this morning on our Monday show. So as we look at the updated top 25, following a crazy weekend of college football, I watched so much college football, and I know you guys did too. I mean, there was one game after another, and what allowed us to watch so much football was because Alabama played in the morning time, and the day was just absolutely stacked. Did anybody stay up for the Colorado-Kansas State game? My goodness, man, there was football forever. There was even a game that kicked off after that, which was Boise State and Hawaii. All right, so Texas, and rightfully so, is the number 1 team in college football. You have Oregon at the number 2. And again, we're working off the AP top 25 here. In a couple weeks, we won't look at the AP anymore because it'll just be the college football official playoff rankings. Number 3 is Penn State. And I don't agree with Penn State being here after beating USC 33-30. They had to come back and win. I don't like I don't believe in Penn State. I'm just going to say that. Ohio State lost to Oregon, so they drop a spot. You got Georgia at the number 5 spot after beating Mississippi State 41-31. You have Miami, who was open. Alabama checks in at number 7. LSU now at 8 after beating Ole Miss. Iowa State undefeated after beating West Virginia. Clemson's a team nobody has been watching them, right? But they've been winning some ball games following their opening week loss to Georgia. You also have Tennessee at 11. I was surprised to see Tennessee drop to 11. That was one of the ones that kind of like made I still have them in the top 10. In fact, I have them higher than I think most. Notre Dame beat Stanford 49-7. BYU moves to 13. I believe I think they're undefeated as well. Texas A&M, who's right now atop of the SEC with a 3-0 record, followed by Boise State, who beat Hawaii, Indiana, Northwestern. You can see the rest of the top 25. Three teams that I'd like to point out. Pittsburgh, led by Eli Holsting, is now number 20. And then you have Army, who's number 23, right? And then you have Navy, who's number 25, right? Army is ranked ahead of Michigan. You see what I'm saying? Like, when you kind of zoom out, you still, like, Alabama has a new coach. They're number 7. They're still winning games. They still beat Georgia, right? Michigan just won the champ. Can you imagine? I wonder, I haven't had time to look at it, but can you imagine what Michigan's fan base is probably saying right now? Like, Jim Harbaugh leaves, and now Army is ranked ahead of Michigan. I love Army. I love Navy. I love Air Force, right? But can you imagine, like, that's where they are. That's the trajectory of their program. That's not even the trajectory. That's the reality. Is they're almost out of the top 25, and they just won the championship last year. So it is hard to sustain success, right? And there's a lot of football left to be played, but Michigan's pretty much out of it. Whereas Alabama, I mean, they still have an incredible shot to continue to do what they want to do, climb the pyramid. I'm with you too, Adam Hicks. What's up, man? I appreciate you being here. Miami will lose somewhere. Yeah, I agree. I think Miami will slip. They should have. I mean, should have, would have, could have, but they could have lost 2 games already. We'll take you all the way to 11:30, where we will have Kane Womack, Nick Sheridan, followed by Kalen DeBoer. Chris from New Jersey says this week is huge. Absolutely, for a million different reasons. I mean, now where things sit in the SEC, this game going up to Tennessee. And the thing I like about it, and why I want to stay optimistic, is because Alabama goes up to Tennessee, and they've had a lot of success against Tennessee in the past, right? You looked at what Coach Saban has done in the past against Tennessee, and I know the game has changed, and Tennessee is a very good football team. And you look to the trajectory of them under Josh Heupel, Tennessee fans are probably the happiest that they've ever been, honestly. This is the most healthy the program has ever been. This is probably the best quarterback that they've had in several different years. So I am excited to see Alabama take on Tennessee. If Alabama is able to beat Tennessee in Neyland Stadium, I think that this win would be just what the doctor ordered in terms of getting things back on track, because you beat right? I have them in my top 10. I think consensusly, a lot of people would probably have them in the top 10, but you beat the number 11 team in the country on the road, right? In a very challenging environment. And I think things start getting going from a win against Tennessee, right? A rivalry game. There's a lot on the line in this game. We know this, but a win, I think, steers things. I think you gain so much momentum from a win against Tennessee. All right. Here's my top 10. I threw this together. I put this together yesterday. Let me see how I feel about it today. So I have Texas at number 1. I don't like to put Oregon anywhere, even within my top 10, but watching them beat Ohio State, okay, I did like the way that they moved the football around. I do have respect for their quarterback, and I did like the passion from Dan Lanning. He's a very animated and fiery guy. I saw where he had 12 men on the field to basically he sacrificed 5 yards for 4 seconds. Thought that was a pretty genius move. He's a coach that has that fire in the belly, but guess what he hasn't done? He hasn't been able to beat Coach Kalen DeBoer during his career, right? So they win this game, and it was a tight one. It was in Eugene. Fans stormed the field. They are now number 2 in the country. Let's go back up to Texas real quick. Texas beat Oklahoma and pretty much did what they wanted to do against the Sooners. Up next, they take on Georgia. Now, that game is in Austin, right? A game that we're all going to be watching following Alabama and Tennessee. It's in the evening time. That's like must-watch TV. I can't wait to see this game. Out of all the games, so far I've been the most excited to see Alabama and Georgia, and now I'm the most excited to see Texas and Georgia play. Imagine, is there anyone inside the comment box right now that thinks Georgia beats Texas? Let me ask you this. Yes, like, who wins, Texas or Georgia? Type T for Texas and type G for Georgia. Let's just see where the fan pulse is right now. If Georgia's able to beat Texas and Alabama beats Tennessee, I mean, I don't know how whatever the rankings are, but man, that loss that Georgia had to Alabama, where if you reverse it, the win that Alabama had over Georgia, that is going to be gigantic, right? See, there's some fans who feel that Georgia is going to be able to go to Austin and beat Texas. A lot of fans. Wow. Probably, I think more. I asked this. I had a small morning show yesterday, and I think there was more that were feeling Texas, but now there's a lot more Georgias inside the comment box. That's going to be a hell of a game. Jarvis, what's the line on that game? Was it 3.5? I think it was 3.5, if I remember correctly. So Texas favored by 3.5. Jarvis, get the double check if you can, man. I appreciate it. All right, back to my top 10. You see that Texas has Georgia, then they have Vandy, then they have Florida, then they have Arkansas, Kentucky, Texas A&M. Yo, I could see them falling somewhere around here, right? What if Vanderbilt's just the slayer to everybody, all the big dogs? All right, Jarvis has it at 3.5. I appreciate the update. All right, Oregon, they beat Ohio State. Now you look at the rest of their schedule. It's light. They got Purdue, Illinois, right, who's ranked, I think, in the top 25. They take on Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Washington. So Oregon, that was a gigantic win for their program, for where they are going to the season-wise. I mean, you could almost say that this team has a high probability to already make the college football playoffs. Out of all the teams listed here, Oregon probably has a great shot. But unless they slip up somewhere, I don't know where they could slip up, though. It's not going to be against Purdue. Illinois, I don't think so. Michigan, I mean, it's not the same. Michigan, Maryland, Coach Locks, I don't know. Let me ask you this. Yes or no question. Just from looking at Oregon's remaining schedule, could you see who – do you think it's likely that Oregon slips up, yes or no? I'm going to say no. I don't think so. I think that Oregon's now going to run the table. At least up until, their conference championship game. But I don't see any of those teams upsetting Oregon. I can see maybe some of those teams beating Texas up top, but not Oregon. Do you feel that Oregon will slip up? Right? Bama fan, I'm telling you, right? It's kind of a cakewalk. Old guy Rock saying yes. Bama Pete is saying no, right? I don't see them slipping up. Okay. Now we go to the third team that I have. I have Ohio State. And, following the loss to Oregon, still think this is a good team. And look at their remaining schedule, too. Nebraska, Penn State, Purdue, Northwestern, Indiana, Michigan. I would imagine that they win the rest of their games, too. Unless Ryan Day can't win against Michigan, just period. But, I mean, you look at those two teams from the Big Ten, I think those teams have high probability to make the college football playoffs. I have Alabama at number 4, okay? They beat Georgia. That goes a long way for me. And I think while I was kind of feeling a little bit doom and gloom, and I know if you look to the fact that they've trailed in 3 games, I'm really starting to think like I'm not lowering my standards in terms of wanting to dominate or wanting to see Alabama dominate. But what I am starting to accept is like the parity of college football. And I think that win against Georgia is going to go such a long way. That's why I have Georgia right behind Alabama. So Alabama is 5-1. They did beat South Carolina. Really good edge rushers. Put together a really good game plan. Came in here and, had the lead at one point in this game. Alabama's remaining schedule is definitely challenging. You look at the fact that they have Tennessee coming up, then Missouri, LSU, Mercer, Oklahoma, Auburn. The thing about Alabama, and I don't know, I would imagine like they have 3 tough games remaining on the road too. I would imagine like when I started to look at this schedule, I thought that the hard part of the schedule would start like this week with Tennessee. I think they're all going to be hard from here on out, right? I think the top 10 is, going to Tennessee is going to be challenging. Going to LSU is going to be challenging. Going to Oklahoma, I still feel going to Oklahoma is going to be challenging. And I still feel and one thing that I've learned here is just Auburn, this team, they will play Alabama tight, I would imagine. Somehow, some way, it's the weirdest thing. We understand this because it's a rivalry game. I have Georgia up next. They beat Mississippi State. They take on Texas this weekend, then play Florida, Ole Miss. Man, they go to Austin and they go to Oxford. And you take on Tennessee. This is a tough schedule too. Look at this. Texas, Florida is certainly punching. They're fighting for Billy. And they should have beat, you know what? They should have beat Tennessee. I don't understand why he kicked that long 51-yard field goal. I felt that Florida should have won that game. That was a good game. Jarvis, you're right. Alabama is everybody's Super Bowl. 100. They still are 100%. Then I have Tennessee. I think Tennessee. What I liked about Tennessee against Florida, they had a lot of intensity. Like, I think those guys have that want, right? We talk about that want, and I think that they have it. It seems like Tennessee, they're animated on defense. They were flying around. They're excited. I bet you they are. I bet you they're hungry to play Alabama. I bet they can't wait. Just like a lot of these teams that think Alabama is now vulnerable because of this or that. Or you heard Shane Beamer following the game saying that, based on how Alabama plays defense, their wide receivers are going to have opportunities. I think Tennessee feels the exact same way. And until Alabama's defense, until we really start to see it come together and then really start, stopping teams on third downs or, figuring out things on the fly, I think all teams are going to feel that way against Alabama. The problem is, how are you going to stop Alabama's offense? It's ultra challenging. Then I have Penn State. I'm not buying into the Penn State. I never do. They are undefeated. They did beat, USC 33-30. They have Wisconsin, Ohio State, Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland up next. I would imagine Ohio State beats them, and then, I'm curious to see what happens to Penn State. Miami, I don't know. I do like Cam Ward. The guy, like in late game situations, he has it too, and he's a great quarterback. They almost lost to Cal. They almost lost to Virginia Tech. They didn't. They won those games. I don't know. I don't know where to put them. They have Louisville, Florida State, Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake, and Syracuse. I wouldn't be surprised if Syracuse beats Miami. Mike G is saying Penn State is good, but not a top 5 team. Yeah, I don't think so. And then, Clemson, they've been winning some games. Ever since they got punched in the teeth the beginning of the season by Georgia, here comes Clemson. They got Virginia, Louisville. I think one of those is probably Virginia Tech. Pittsburgh, they're going to have to deal with Eli Holsting, the Citadel, and then South Carolina at the back end of the season. And then I have LSU in my top 10 after beating Ole Miss 29-26. They have Arkansas, Texas A&M, Bama, Vandy, Oklahoma. That's a tough schedule for LSU. All Chris wants is just a win. Yeah. All right. Here's a look at the SEC football standings as of right now. So the reason that Georgia is ahead of Alabama on this graphic is that Georgia has played an additional game in the SEC, so they've won 3 games as compared to Alabama, who's only played, they've won 3 games. Alabama's won 2 games in the SEC, if that makes sense. Texas A&M is undefeated. LSU is undefeated. Texas is undefeated. So, competing in the SEC is no joke. Look, Georgia just beat Mississippi State by 10 points. South Carolina just played Alabama extremely close. Kentucky played Georgia extremely close, right? Tennessee, I mean, that game against Oklahoma, it's not like they overly dominated, right? LSU just beat Ole Miss by 3. Florida played Tennessee to overtime. Vanderbilt beat Missouri in overtime. Vanderbilt beat Alabama. Yo, the SEC it's a gauntlet. I mean, I don't even know if you want to play an extra game to win the SEC title game. I know it's like a direct hit to the college football playoffs, but that's just another week of wear and tear. So 1 versus 2, man, you can look at all these teams, how they played each other, maybe outside of Auburn, and it's been ultra challenging. The games have been super, super tight. Right? Arkansas beat Tennessee. That's crazy. Baby NFL. And the tiebreakers are wild. If you looked at tiebreakers within the SEC, they work based off common opponents, overall conference winning percentage, and then the last thing, it's like the fourth thing, is a random draw. So there could be a chance where teams are completely equal for, let's say, like second place, and it's a random draw. That's the fourth piece of criteria. It'd be hard to get there, but that does exist. Stephen Hicks, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. All right. Let's get to upon further review. And again, I'll take your calls probably close to 11. I got some things that I'll hit through, and then I'll open up the call line. You guys can play Monday morning quarterback. So upon further review, right, Alabama has trailed in each of its last 3 games. Cause for concern? Probably, because we're not used to that. They have showed a way to win, right? They have showed late game ability to take over. I mean, they did start losing the game against South Carolina. They came back, were able to get an interception in the end, and end up winning, right? Lenora Sellers, he had his best game against Alabama. He had 238 yards. He was 74%. The week before, Vanderbilt's quarterback, he was 80%. So you're continuing to see quarterbacks have success against Alabama's secondary and against their defense overall, right? Shane Beamer, after the game, said that because of how Alabama plays defense, that they're going to have opportunities, and they made plays. I think they missed on a touchdown. So did Milroe. I think it was like a wheel route that they missed on. And Alabama missed on from Jalen Milroe. He overthrew Ryan Williams. That would have been a touchdown for sure. But they did. Like, they made a contested catch in the end zone against Damani Jackson, right? They knew they were going to have opportunities. That was Milroe's worst game. Is he allowed to play bad? Yeah. You ever watch the NFL? My goodness. Quarterbacks are like up and down. Jalen Milroe hasn't really been up and down. He's been really steady. And the interceptions that he's thrown prior to this game have been because of like tipped passes, right? Georgia, it was a tip pass. Vanderbilt was a tip pass. This game, he forced a pass that was intercepted right before halftime. I thought they should have just sat on it. And then he lofted that one up in the end zone, and the guy just came and made a play on it. That was a bad decision. So those are both on him, right? That was his worst game. But is he having a bad season? No. Like, he came into this game with the highest efficiency in college football and is still doing an amazing job leading the team. The other thing that I'm always wondering about is, does this team have a limited run game? I feel at times that Jam Miller and Justice Haynes aren't being fed. Now, they are utilized somewhat. Like, there was a sequence against South Carolina where they came out, they ran for 2 decent runs with Jam Miller, and then they threw the football to him. But overall, it seems like there's a lot of empty sets with Jalen Milroe running the football as a designed run. And another thing, like my last point on this is that fans continue to support Kalen DeBoer, which I think is amazing. And that kind of shows you the Alabama fan base. And I kind of reading through the comments, a lot of people feel that it's too early to, like, put this guy in the hot seat. It's growing pains, right? Because of, taking over. And a lot of people are just supportive of just Alabama football in general. And I think that this is because they believe in him as a coach. And I think he's done a good job winning over the fan base. So I've seen a tremendous amount of support for Coach Kalen DeBoer, which I think is great. And they're going to give him every opportunity to continue to win football games. And I think it's great. You should support him, and you should support the players. They are 5-1. He is winning. We knew he was going to be under a microscope, right? So Chris is saying we need Monster Milroe this week, 100%. Yeah, if he rises up in this game and does what he's capable of doing, yeah, it's going to be hard for Tennessee to stop. So those are some of the things that I had just seen from upon further review. I mean, it's been really impressive to see kind of the support for Coach Kalen DeBoer. I think sometimes people look and they're like, man, it's on this coaching staff isn't capable. I think the problems do start up top, because that's just, all problems start with the top. But there's not that many problems. I think we know what the issues are, and that kind of revolves around the defense. So we continue. All right. Here are some stats from the game. We went over this briefly just so you can have something to look at. Lenore Sellers up top. We talked about him, 23 of 31, 238 yards. Raheem Sanders, 16 carries, 78 yards. We knew he was who we thought he was going to be. Jalen Milroe, we talked about him, but this is kind of the thing I was talking about. In the far right, you see Alabama rushing. Jam Miller, 12 attempts for 42 yards, and then Justice Haynes only 8 carries for 26. Jeremy Bernard, he had a really nice game. Kobe Prentice was out, so was Kendrick Law. So Cole Adams, we saw him have a really standout game, 2 receptions for 57 yards. He looked nice catching the football for sure. He has like a robotic arm, right, after his arm injury. What I wanted to do too was talk about like literal facts, right? Because I think there's like opinions and there's hypothetical questions that we could ask, but like you can't debate what I'm about to show you. Like all of these are statistical facts that these are what they are, right? So, if you want to be like doom and gloom, or if you want to be overly optimistic, that's fine. But like, here are the facts to support your case, okay? So facts on this team. Alabama is 5-1 this season and ranked 7th in the country. Can't debate that. That's real, okay? And they're 2-1 in SEC play. Alabama is ranked number 35 in offense overall. What's up, Javion? I see you inside the comment box. Alabama is scoring 41.7 points per game, which is 10th in the country, right? Alabama is ranked 55th in total defense. Alabama is ranked 110th in penalties. That's one of the ones that just is, these last, I guess the last 3 are when you start to talk about issues or start to like question things and see if things can be adjusted. It's the last 3, right? The last 3. Alabama ranked number 55 in defense. That's not going to cut it. I don't think that wins you a championship. Having this amount of penalties, that's not going to win you a championship, right? I'm doing the math here. Let's see. So 433 divided by 47. Yeah, I mean, you look at the amount of penalties that they've had. They're averaging 72 penalties per game, which is crazy. And you know what? That's a lot higher than last year. I didn't do like a long comparative analysis, but I just looked last year compared to this year. I think they're averaging 40. This year they're averaging like 73 per game, right? South Carolina is averaging more penalties than Alabama. Those teams had, they have like 13 penalties combined, 14. And then the last one is pretty concerning too. Alabama is ranked 23 in third down defense. And when we look at kind of the Alabama's defense on third downs, I think after the Georgia game, Alabama was ranked 1st in the country on third downs. And then against Vanderbilt, they went to number 10, right? And then after this game against South Carolina, they went to 23. So this is something we continue to see sliding down. So teams are having more success on third downs. Now, what was interesting about it was in the first half against South Carolina, I don't know if you saw this, South Carolina was 0 for 5 on third down conversions against Alabama, but in the second half, they were able to, have much more success. And I think they finished over 50% on third downs. And I didn't add this, but on fourth down conversions too, teams have been able to move the football on fourth downs. We saw what Georgia did, playing with their backs against the wall. We saw Vanderbilt throw for a touchdown. We saw South Carolina throw for a touchdown, right? So those are like facts, okay? So you can't debate any of that because that is real. More facts and more stats, okay? Milroe is 72% this year, 1,100 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Jam Miller is averaging 63 per game, and Justice Haynes is averaging 45.2 per game. That second stat line, it kind of raises my eyebrow a little bit. I did not see that going into the season. So, you know, I would like to see more production from the running game. I get it. Different games have different schematics. They are being utilized, but just not how I envisioned it. And I would imagine you put kind of more of the heavy load on these guys running the ball rather than Jalen Milroe. But then, I mean, Jalen is such an elite talent doing everything that, you know, he gets a lot of, you know, the design calls, or he may run off or whatever. The third stat line is Ryan Williams, 494 yards with 5 touchdowns. I think South Carolina had a game plan that they certainly wanted to stop him. He's still averaging 98 yards per game, which is outstanding. He's on the Biletnikoff Award watch. The fourth stat is Deontay Lawson and Jahad Campbell leading the team in tackles. I think they each have 40 tackles, right? So combined 80 or 81. And then Q-Rob got another sack. He's had a couple weird penalties, though, as of late on the quarterback. But he does have 4 sacks, which leads the team. And then Keon Sabb has 2 interceptions, and Damani Jackson has 2 interceptions. All right. Here are the Pro Football Focus grades following the game against South Carolina. Pro Football Focus grades are put together by Pro Football Focus, former coaches at the highest level. Watch the game, grade the game, and, you know, this is some of the detail that we have. Now, if you look at Caden Proctor on the far left and you see he's a left tackle, he played in 63 total snaps, and his grade on the far right, his overall offensive grade was 64.2. To be honest, nobody on the offensive side grading-wise really stands out to me. I did underline Jaden Roberts. He had 37 snaps, and then Geno Vandermark had 26. For the last 2 games, we've continued to see Jaden Roberts and Geno Vandermark almost split time at the right guard position, which is interesting to me. Last week, Nick Sheridan said that that's because he feels like Geno Vandermark deserves to play. I think Coach Kapilovic recently said that Jaden Roberts is in pain every single week that he goes out to play football. Remember, this guy had surgery on his hand, so maybe he's not completely 100%. Now, Elijah Pritchett, if up at the top right, you'll see that he had the best grade, which is pretty surprising because I saw the right tackle get exposed once again. Here's a look at the defensive grades, and this is just against South Carolina. Keon Sabb up at the top. He played in 75 snaps, and his defensive grade was 58.0. You know, if you look back, you know, Keon Sabb, his grades have been kind of trending the wrong direction. And a lot of teams have been targeting Keon Sabb, to be honest. I also highlighted Jahad Campbell, you know, another tough day at the ballpark grading-wise. Last week against Vanderbilt, he was 38. This week he's 56. And then Justin Jefferson is 49.7, which is interesting. I thought I saw Justin Jefferson make some plays. You know, Jalen Mbakwe really caught my eye this past game. He played in 41 snaps and has a grade of 76.8. I think, look, I'm about to show you kind of the secondary coverage grades next, but I like what I'm starting to see. See, in a perfect world, these freshmen wouldn't be like forced to start unless they were like totally ready. I think Jalen Mbakwe, I like where things are with him because I think he's getting on the field, getting reps, and then he's, you know, practicing, and then Jalen Mbakwe is like on the rise. I think he'll be like fully ready to like get in there by the end of the season, but it's not like forcing him to start. And credit, and I'm going to talk about, well, before I go to this, I'll go to the secondary grades. Credit to Zavion Brown, man. This guy has played he started every single game, but again, he's just a freshman. I mean, look at his grade. Let's start at the top before we do that. Malachi Moore, and these are just in coverage, okay? And these are pretty much the starters in the secondary. And this is their overall coverage grade. Malachi Moore, 78.4. Keon Sabb, 57.3. And this is through 6 games. Damani Jackson, 72.3. Xavier Brown, 62.2. Devontae Smith, 70.9. And Red Morgan, 59.7. What do Xavier Brown and Red Morgan have in common? They are both freshmen at the University of Alabama. What's up, Jack? I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much. Explore Horizons says that we're not missing Caleb. He's not doing too great at Ohio State. You know, I haven't looked at any of his stats, but, you know, these are the grades that Pro Football Focus provides. The other detail that I want to kind of zoom in was on the pass blocking stats, rather grades. And these are just pass blocking, and these are for this season. And you'll see why I ask, is there an issue at right tackle? Maybe there's an issue at right guard, considering that Geno Vandermark's starting to play a lot more. Adam, does it feel like Jalen Mbakwe is making good open? He's a great open field tackler too. So the left side of Alabama, I mean, shoot, look, Caden Proctor, 89.9 pass blocking. Tyler Booker, the same, just about. Parker Brailsford, 86 points. Those are like elite. That's like NFL level. Seriously, anything over the 80s in Pro Football Focus is like extraordinary. But then you get to Jaden Robertson, Elijah Pritchett, or even Geno Vandermark. Man, maybe you do have an issue at right guard and right tackle. More so at right tackle, I feel. I felt like pressure continues to come from the right side. Let me ask you, yes or no? Do you feel that there's an issue with the right tackle position for Alabama? Do you think that's like kind of one of the missing components? Yes or no? Right tackle. Are you concerned with the right tackle play? It seems like that's an area where if any piece of the offense is vulnerable, I would say that. Like we could say we want the running backs to run more or whatever, or Jalen to, I don't know. Jalen's doing, good besides this last game, in my opinion. But you get what I'm saying? Like, it seems like that seems like a vulnerability. Lance saying right tackle side needs a tight end. And we have seen a lot of tight ends in 2 tight end sets. Like, sometimes I do see C.J. Dupree and Robbie Oots on the field at the same time. Rec 30's like, get the cigars ready. He's feeling good. There's nothing like smoking a cigar, right, after that game. Remember it was Butch Jones who got to smoke a cigar? He had never smoked a cigar in, like, his whole time at Tennessee, and then he comes over to Alabama one season and starts smoking. Need to find that graphic. Jeffrey Elliott is saying Jalen Mbakwe needs more reps. Kid will be a playmaker we need on the field. Yeah, you can just tell, like, I don't know. He kind of also just has it. And he seems to be at the right place, the right time. I think he's ready. And Adam Hicks, Zay Mincy was the one that got eaten up on that touchdown. He really hasn't played that much. That was a tough situation for him to go in. Damani Jackson went out with the injury. I don't even know what the injury was. Thank goodness he's okay and he came back. But you had Zay Mincy come in, and they absolutely knew they wanted to target the greenhorn, and they went right at him. Clint is saying he thinks Roberts is an issue, which is crazy to say. Yeah, you're starting to see like the right guard and right tackle position. I think you're right. I think Roberts isn't playing as we thought he was going to play. So just something to keep an eye on. But man, Caden Proctor I love that clip where he was blocking like 2 Georgia guys. Do you see that? Oh, so it was a bruised hip. Yeah, it did look like the hit was directly on his hip. Okay, so I would like some feedback here, because this is more like hypothetical, okay? Now, some of it, we can see that there's, things that are going wrong that we don't like, that we can point fingers at different, places. But, like, here's kind of the list after reading comments from the fans that, stood out to me that I thought were worth, like, us talking about. So I listed it through A through F. So right now, why don't you look at the screen and pick one that you feel that is Actually, how about you pick 2, right? And place your biggest issue first and your second issue second, right? So if you have an issue like with B, the defensive scheme, do B. And if you think like D has created more parity, that's probably what I would go to. So like type B and D. So take a minute, look at this chart, and then provide the feedback. And then we'll kind of go one by one. And I would imagine there's a lot of B's in here, right? This is a nice hoodie that Kane's wearing right here, though, I do have to say. All right, B and C. I'm going to go with B and D. And then if I had to, I would imagine maybe like E. Let's start at the top. So overall coaching, while it does start with Coach Kalen DeBoer, I don't know if we can actually completely point to like just his coaching style yet. I mean, it's only been at first, like I was thinking that maybe I was like, it's DeBoer. But then I was like, man, it's only been 6 games. And then somebody was like, I want to reserve that for the end of the season. And I was like, that's more rational, right? And then I started thinking, we're like, where are the issues that I see with this team? I see third down starting to slide. I see teams on offense making plays in critical situations against Alabama's defense. I see South Carolina starting to run the same plays that Vanderbilt ran. Then I started thinking about this. And listen to what I'm about to say. I would like some feedback on this too. So this year, this is the very first year of helmet communication, right? So before there's up to 15 seconds on the play clock, Kane Womack can talk to Deontay Lawson, right? And then Deontay Lawson calls out, the play, whatever. I was thinking about it. Do you think that the offense on the other side, because they're doing the same thing, you think they're calling basically 2 plays and they're kind of like showing something and then audibling into something else? And then that puts Alabama's defense in playing basically like reaction football. I was thinking that the offense probably has such a higher advantage with the helmet communication, but they've been doing this in the NFL for a long time. But I was just something that I was thinking about because I started listening to some of the players talking about that the plays weren't getting in soon enough. I don't know, just something. So I was thinking like overall coaching, probably not yet till we get to like the end of the season. But the defensive scheming, teams are like, to hear Shane Beamer talk about the way that Alabama plays defense, we knew our wide receivers would have opportunities. Like they're confident that they can move the football against Alabama. So that's an issue. I never heard that before when coaches are like excited to take advantage of something that Alabama can't stop. I've never heard that before. That's why that's something that needs to be addressed, to fix. And remember, this guy completely reconstructed the entire defense, right? Now you're running a swarm defense, 4-2-5. Young and disciplined. I do see some, disciplinary things that we've talked about before. And I do look like, who are the young guys that are playing? I mean, Xavier Brown's young. Red Morgan's young. They're both playing in the secondary. The secondary, this is the first year that the secondary's been playing together. Army's saying straight up that Womack, the defense is over his head. Undisciplined. We talked about the Malachi thing. But it's not like that doesn't seem to be a common theme week to week. The penalties, could you point that to being undisciplined? Maybe so, but I don't know. I do like D. Like, NIL has created parity. Like, that is absolutely true. All the teams now have firepower. They can pay for who they want, when they want. Hattie May saying that Alabama can't tackle. And you do see a lot of kind of punching out the football. But NIL has certainly created parity. I love D. I mean, I think that is an issue. And I did ask. I was like, are you happy with just winning, or are you happy with like dominating? But I don't know how many games you can really dominate against the SEC, because the talent is pretty much equal. All the games have been close. And then I was also thinking like first year growing pains too. Just, it's a transition. Every single thing is going to be under a microscope. There's new changes to college football. There's new changes at the top. This was another thing. I had my brother and my father here. They went to the game, and I have them here. And my brother pointed out something interesting to me. I was like, damn. He was like, no coaches in the NFL, because remember this whole T-shirt thing people were writing Coach Kalen about, is he was like, no coaches in the NFL dress up. He was like, no one in the NFL cares what the coaches are wearing. I was like, damn, that's a really good point. And then I started watching like the coach. Remember Bill Belichick, one of the greatest NFL coaches, he just wore straight up hoodie. Like he looked like he was in pajamas. Mike Tomlin, I saw him just in like a long sleeve. I thought that was an interesting observation. And then look, our fans overreacting. I think, if you're, are we overreacting just because it's just, it's been a wild year of college football and here we are. I mean, I said this before the season started, that this would be a completely different year that we've never experienced before. I didn't think it would be like this heart pounding, to be honest, but it is. And I think it's going to be like this the rest of the way. I'm not saying Alabama's going to have to fight and come back in different games. I'm just saying it's going to be tight. And I like that, because there for a while covering Alabama, they were just the talent was just so much better. It wasn't even close. And now it's pretty exciting every single week. I don't know. I don't like, the South Carolina be leading. That was stressful. And my biggest thing that I was thinking, the biggest issue, all right, so it could be one of any of these. It seems like everyone's saying B and D. That's kind of the most common that I was reading through the comment box. But is this the biggest issue right now? My next slide. All right. Is this the biggest issue? Is this it? That Kalen DeBoer is not Nick Saban, and that we really haven't fully healed from Coach Saban leaving. Maybe this is it. This is the first year without the GOAT. It sucks. I think what I've been really grateful to see is the amount of support for Coach Kalen DeBoer continuing, right? Like people, this is the coach. This is our Alabama football coach. But it's not like Alabama football is just moving on from some other coach. There'll never be another Coach Saban, right? Never. And college football, when Coach Saban left, he left at a time that college football also completely changed. He left right before this cataclysmic change. I mean, Coach Saban kind of coached against NIL, on the last year, But now that teams have had a couple years to load up, shoot. I think this is it. So, and I still think we just haven't fully healed from that Coach Kalen DeBoer is not Nick Saban. And, they're different dudes. They've each won a ton of games. Clearly, no one has done it at the level of Coach Saban, and no one ever will. But I think maybe that's it, or at least that has a lot to do with it. There's no Coach Saban. It's still, and I think, this year has been so dramatic in terms of Coach Saban not being there, not seeing him on the sideline, not hearing him in the post-game comments, right? It does suck. Coach Saban is Coach Saban. You look at what he's doing on College Game Day, he's killing it. Nobody has a personality like Coach Saban. And he was a defensive-minded coach. And he had that fire that, we got used to. Right? That animated, I'm doing everything I can to win. So, That's kind of what I was thinking. All right, let's turn the page real quick. I'm about to take your calls here in a few minutes. Here are the next five for the Alabama Crimson Tide. You take on Tennessee, a game that will be on 2:30 Central Time up in Neyland Stadium. Alabama is a 2.5-point favorite against the Volunteers. Then you take on Missouri, who's still ranked in the top 25. That game will be here at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Then you have an open week on November 2nd before taking on the LSU Tigers at Tiger Stadium, right? So you start to look at the schedule. That's where I thought that this would be the hard part of the schedule. And maybe I was talking to somebody last night who's pretty dialed into the program. They were saying to me that they don't feel that this schedule is as hard as it looks. I kind of disagree. I think from what we've seen so far, like, these games are tight. The teams are better. I think these are really challenging games, specifically because you have 3 that are on the road and 1 against your biggest rival, right? Pretty much you play all your rivals 2 out of the 3 on the road. That's tough, right? Tennessee, LSU on the road, and Auburn comes here. And these are all Super Bowl games. Lynn Shaneyfield, what's up? Kids will not get better if they are not put in wrong positions on defense. I said it very earlier that this team will attach to ends with no speed, and the last 2 teams have wore us out. Tennessee 50+. So I think that's a hell of a schedule. It's tough. Who knows what Eli Drinkwitz will do? I don't know. Head-to-head for Alabama and Tennessee, and of course we'll preview more of this matchup as we get closer to Saturday. And of course we have Nick Sheridan, Kane Womack, and Coach Kalen DeBoer coming up here at starting at 11:30. Coach Kalen DeBoer will be at 12. But here's the last 5 for Alabama and Tennessee. So clearly you know that Alabama beat South Carolina 27-25, lost to Vanderbilt by 5, beat Georgia, Wisconsin, and South Florida. On the other side, Tennessee survives in Neyland Stadium in overtime. Before that, they lost to Arkansas on the road, beat Oklahoma, Kent State, and North Carolina State. So I can't wait to see this one, to be honest. I mean, this is kind of one that we had circled on the calendar. Alabama currently favored by 53% on this ESPN matchup predictor. This thing had Alabama favored by 91% against Vanderbilt and 91% against South Carolina. So it's been off. B. Robin with the super chat. We appreciate you, man. The biggest issue on defense is not the scheme. It's the effort of the players not tackling correctly, getting pushed around, no big hits. That's a first. Yeah, I think I've seen like one kind of like bone-jarring hit this year. That was by LT Overton against Wisconsin. But the booming hits that I want to see is like what Vanderbilt was doing to Alabama. That was earth-shattering. They were absolutely dropping in the boom. And I think sometimes in football too, I think a lot of guys get caught up like trying to strip the ball or rip the ball out rather than just taking the guy to the ground. I see that more and more. I think it's everywhere. I've also seen more flopping than I've ever seen. Like there's been, I think even Coach Saban said something about flopping. There is so much flopping. It's turning into like, it's not that bad, but it's like soccer, right? I see a lot of flopping. All right. This is obviously outdated, so we'll keep you posted on there's like any injuries or whatever, but I appreciate you guys. What I'm going to do is open up the call-in line right now, and how the call-in line works is I'll take the call. I'll ask you where you're calling in from and welcome you to the show. You're welcome to hit on any topics, but keep in mind that the call-in line's pretty busy and there'll be a lot of people that want to call in and sound off. I'm going to pretty much, it's your show, so whatever you want to call is cool. And, just keep in mind that when you're on the phone, you probably have somebody behind you trying to get in as well. I will take calls up to around 11:30 and, we'll have fun with it. So I'm going to take a 2-second break real fast, and then I'll be back, and I'll take your call. So just hang with me real quick. Give me like 2 minutes, 1 minute probably, and I'll be right back on Bama Football on YouTube. All right, fam, back right here on Bama Football on YouTube. We start with the 417. Hey, what's going on? You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, Kyle, it's Timothy. I'm calling in from Georgia.
What's up, Timothy? I appreciate you calling in from Georgia, man. Come with it. Hope you're safe on the road. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I think it was Saturday after the game. I think I heard someone say that they practiced early in the morning. I think it was you. I can't remember. But I also think that has something to do with it because I'm an early morning kind of guy too. But if I have to go to practice early in the morning, that's going to tire you out pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it in the afternoon, like you're already like, you know, you're up, you're ready, like you ready for the day, like you're already excited, you're hyped up.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if we changed the practice from, you know, in the morning to in the afternoons again, I think would be doing better. I think that, you know, we're just catching people waking up, you know, they're tired, you know, they don't probably want to wake up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning to go to practice. So I think that's kind of a huge part of it. But also, like, I saw Malachi Moore on the game. He deflected the ball, and he tackled the guy, and then the guy just flopped, and then he got called for a flag, like a pass interference or some crap.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a 3rd and 9. And I'm like, bro, like, that was not even a flag. Like, that shouldn't even been penalized on our part. Like, that should have been, you know, flopping on the offense for a freaking 10-yard penalty or some crap. But I agree. This defense is young. You know, they're a bunch of 17, 18, 19-year-olds. This is Kalen DeBoer's first year in the SEC. I am kind of worried. I'm not hitting the panic button right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if Tennessee is if Shane Beamer thinks he can have a way with our defense, then we already know what Josh Heupel was going to do because that boy is an offensive guru.
Yeah.
So I am pretty nervous about it, but I think if we can switch up a little bit of things, like practicing during the, you know, at least like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you know, practicing, I think that would help us a lot. But I just want to see what your thoughts is on that because as a former football player myself, playing in high school, working out in the mornings, it is pretty long, and you are tired more throughout the day. So I just want to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Timothy. I'll answer on the other line, man. Appreciate it, man. Be safe on the road. Thanks for calling in, man.
All right, thank you.
Timothy calling by way in Georgia. I would have thought that they played better against South Carolina, considering that they do play in the morning. With that said, I think a lot of people don't have that type of energy in the morning. From what I understand, I wasn't at the game. My dad and my brother went. It didn't seem like it was like, you know, it's not going to be a 6 o'clock type atmosphere. And I did think going into this game that this South Carolina game would be kind of the rat poison game. They came in and they were able to take the lead there on Alabama in the end, and I don't know. I mean, Lynn Shanifield inside the comment box is saying that he questions kind of their toughness, that he's been to some of their practices and kind of questions their toughness, and I think a lot of people have, but I don't necessarily equate it to anything with morning practices. I know people have been talking about morning or afternoon. I think it kind of deals with the fact that people are excited to play Alabama. Like, they see Alabama's defense as vulnerable. And I do like the point that Timothy hit on is the fact that, like, Josh Heupel, he's going to work that offense. And I guarantee you he's going to, if Vanderbilt had a little success, a lot of success, I guess, and South Carolina had some, I can't even imagine what Nico's going to do against Alabama, or at least what they're imagining that he could do. And I've seen a lot of time of control, but they're good. Tennessee has a lot of different weapons, and we'll continue to talk more about Tennessee, Alabama as we continue to navigate through the week. We go back to the phone lines of the 256. Hey, you're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
This is Darryl from Huntsville.
What's up, Coach? How you doing, man? Come with it, man. Welcome into the show. Hope you're off to a good Monday.
Yes, sir, I sure am. Same thing as I said the last time I called last week. I just don't see the talent. I don't see it. Can they become better? We know if Coach Saban was there, they would be playing a lot better. I truly believe that. But Coach Saban is gone. We got to get behind Coach DeBoer and Hope he can right the ship, because right now we got a lot of things going on our defense that shouldn't be going. We got busted coverage, as you saw. Guy just walked in. I think there was a fourth down, and the guy threw about a 35-yard bomb.
Yeah.
Tackling is just is non-existent. We don't tackle. We try. As one of the callers said, or I think you said, we spend too much time trying to punch the ball out.
Yeah. And
we're not a defense that create turnovers. We don't knock down. We don't deflect passes. We don't defense passes. I mean, the two quarterbacks. The last two quarterbacks we played, we made them look like Archie Manning and Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just sad because the scheme that we're playing is based on a man-to-man combo. We need to play more zone and more combo man-to-man, because we don't have anybody. Because what Tennessee's going to do, they're going to isolate us, spread us out, and find that weakness that they can find, like they did when they beat us in Knoxville 2 years ago. They beat Malachi Moore, I think, for 2 bombs because they found that they saw it on film, get hyper credit, and they exploited it. Yep. They spread us out and they exploited it. Yep. So we got to have your safeties are the last line of defense, and I don't know too many safeties that can cover receivers. We got to come up with a scheme that alleviates some of the damage. If we don't, Tennessee's going to run us off the field Saturday. Now, a lot of people going to get mad saying that. I hate to say it myself, but I'm just honest. Because this would probably be the best quarterback we played, the best pure passing quarterback we played. And also, defensive line, they're non-existent. I mean, I heard you say earlier, I said the same thing watching the game. They running the same thing Vanderbilt ran on us. Then they ran a shovel play, picked up 25 yards.
Yeah.
Well, somebody's got to say, hey, I know the game hadn't changed that much. You read tendencies. Okay? It's 3rd down and 9. Okay, we got to look for a flanker screen or a middle screen,
or a shovel pass,
or a draw play. Yeah, it's common sense. Somebody has to be a tendency reader and say, "Hey, this is what we're looking for." And then I think again on 4th down, I think everybody after Georgia went 6 for 6 on us, I do believe South Carolina went 2 for 3 on 4th down. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And you have to hold the coaches. We know they're new, but they are responsible, and they should be held responsible because this is Alabama. We expected some drop-off, but not like this. Like you said, when a coach said we knew our receivers would be able to get open against Alabama, that's an insult. Even though it's after the game, that's an insult.
Yeah, I know.
We knew our receivers would be able to get open. Insult. And the offensive line is the same thing. We cannot consistently push people off of the offensive line. Our best play has been when we pull the guards. That's the best running play we got. So I'm going to get off the line. I got a whole lot else to say, Kyle, but I don't have time. I thank you for your program. Always good talking with you.
All right, man. Take it easy, Coach. I appreciate you calling in. That's Coach Darrell calling in by way of Huntsville. Always reporting the facts. I appreciate it. A lot of great football minds up in Huntsville. Love it. I'm looking at Nico's stats on the other side. Maybe I'll show him tomorrow. He's pretty solid across the middle of the field, but downfield deep balls, I don't see him, like to the outside right, for example. And that's anything over 20 yards. He's 1 of 10. 1 of 10, like 20 yards downfield. To the outside right, anything over is 3 of 7. Where you see him be productive is 11 of 23 across the middle, 16 of 17 under 10 yards. So, short little passes, he's all right. But in terms of like long field throwing, his passing numbers don't like completely jump out like when you're looking at Jalen Milroe. All right, 832, we got Mike out in Austin. Mike, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here, man. Welcome to the show. Go ahead.
Kyle, thanks for. Hey, from this point, man, I'm going to just have to come to the defense of my team from this point. Bama fans, the world's not falling apart. I mean, we're still in the top 10. Newsflash, Nick Saban lost 2 games last year. Newsflash, he lost 2 games the year before. The fella that just called, I agree with most of what that guy says, but, man, the world is not falling apart, man. Here's what's happening, Kyle. By the way, thank you for letting me rant for a second. Yeah. Here's what's happening. I think Vanderbilt just played a good game, dude. That quarterback of theirs was 21 of 25. He played a Joe Montana-type game. They straight up beat us, man. It happens every now and then. It happened to Nick Saban year after year, guys. Get over it. The South Carolina game, it was an 11 a.m. game. I was worried about that game from the word go. I think Vanderbilt and South Carolina are a little underrated. And P.S., Kyle, with that being said, Kalen DeBoer is a first-year coach coming off a dynasty like we did with Nick Saban. This Bama team is still trying to find their identity, man. It's a new season in college football world, period. It's a new day at Alabama and Tuscaloosa. This team is still trying to find their identity. Give these guys a break, Daryl. My God, man. Give these guys a break. Bama Nation was top 10. We're undefeated. Yeah, the Vandy was a bad loss. It was a horrible loss. But give them credit, dude. They outplayed us. They were 49ers that day. Give them credit. They outplayed us. We're still trying to find our team, our identity, Kyle. And all this naysaying coming from these Bama fans is starting to frankly bug me. It's starting to bug me, man. I mean, what do they expect, dude? What do they expect? I mean, God, we're top 10. We're winning these games. We beat Georgia that never loses. We beat them. Remember that? I'm sorry, man. This is starting to bug me a little bit, dude. Vanderbilt straight up beat us, man. Get over it, Bama Nation. Get over it. We hung up and we beat South Carolina. I was worried about that 11 a.m. from the word go. They 11 a.m. from the word go. Kyle, I could just like Daryl said, he can rant forever about how horrible Bama is. I can rant forever about how good we are. That's what I can say, man. We got this game coming up. This weekend, Kyle. It's hard to pick, dude, because Tennessee is kind of in the same place we are. It's straight up 50-50. Here's what I think is going to go on, Kyle. If our defense plays well, yeah, we got issues, dude. And P.S., we had defensive issues with Nick Saban, P.S. But, yeah, we got defensive issues. But if they show up and they play good, we can win this ball game. I'm not worried about our offense. I think our offensive line problems have gelled a little bit, trying to figure out a little bit. Our defense, yeah, I'm worried about our defense. Everybody's worried, yes, I'm worried about our defense. Yes, we are. I'm not throwing the towel on them. I'm worried about them. I was worried from the word go, Kyle. The swarm defense, I'm all for it. But in the SEC, you got to have physicality first. You got to have upfront defensive physicality. That's what makes us the SEC. And then the swarm. Absolutely, I'm a little worried about our defense. But with that being said, I'm not throwing the towel. If they show up at Tennessee this weekend, we can beat Tennessee. We're a better team than Tennessee. I think I know we're ahead with them. But Bama Nation, it was a bad loss. Vandy was a bad loss. Vandy straight up outplayed us, and Joe Montana Jr. beat us that day. Let's move on. That's what I can say about that, Kyle. I'm sorry about the rant, man, but all these naysayers been getting on me lately, dude. And Daryl, I love this dude. Daryl's very knowledgeable. Huntsville. But the naysaying's got to stop, man. That's just where I stand on that, Kyle.
I appreciate the call, Mike. Good stuff, man. Thank you so much for calling. I'll catch up with you next time.
All right, brother.
All right, Mike out in Austin. We go back. We got 973. It looks like we got Chris in New Jersey. Let's take it. Chris, what's up, man? Hope you're off to a good Monday, man. Welcome into the show. Following Mike from Austin, who was hot, man. He's got a lot of support for his team. We go up to New Jersey. Chris from New Jersey, man. Come with it.
Kyle, I'm so happy Mike is out. I really am. Great call, Mike. Kyle, I'm going to say this. I've had a lot of little reflection time since the second half of Georgia.
Yeah.
And so I would probably say that I fall somewhere between Mike and Coach Darrell. And, I'm glad I didn't have to go up to Coach Darrell because he is so knowledgeable. And I agree with – I agree with both of them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just say this. Where my concern is my concern is not with our players, I not at all. So, my concern is that the second half of Georgia, we saw what happened, and we got outcoached. We didn't adjust, and that's on the coaches, right? And so we go into Vandy, a typical trap game. It's an offense that you're not going to really see. Well, we thought we weren't going to see again until South Carolina was doing the same crap with those Tim Tebow shovel passes. But anyway, I look at the second half of Georgia, Womack, DeBoer. I look at Vandy. I put that on the shoulders of Womack, and why? Not because of the first half. But where were they, Kyle? We talked about this with like the great coaches, Saban adjusting at half, Belichick, Parcells. We saw what they were doing for a half. Where was the adjustments in the second half of Andy, right? Mm-hmm. And we just couldn't stop them. I mean, at some point the coaches have to go, you need to hit the up man. You need to, here's the pitch man. This is what they're doing. I mean, I'm not saying that guy had one of the callers said that guy had a Joe Montana day. Was that Mike?
Yeah,
he's right. That's a Joe Montana day, Johnny Manziel day. We could go on, and but now and then South Carolina, and Kyle, your list that you had up was a great list. What's the real answer on that? And I think I said B and E, but what's the real answer, Kyle? The real answer is like all the above, right? Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of everything, and listen. That defensive line for South Carolina, that is the three little words, NFL. That's an NFL defensive line. They're disruptive, and they had a great plan on getting after us and rushing us. And are we having a little issues at right guard and right tackle? Yeah. Well, Jaden Roberts is still hurt. So, but the one thing here's the one thing that makes me nervous, and it's nothing to do with our players. What makes me nervous is, where are these halftime adjustments? I mean, I'm sure DeBoer knows how to do it. I hope Womack knows how to do it because clearly he hasn't done it yet. So where the thing that makes me worry, what kind of game plan are they going to come up with? And what, now I remember coming out in the second half, how many times were we like, here we go, we're going to bomb them in the second half. And now I'm like, we're holding on for dear life in the second half, Kyle. Mm-hmm. So, I'm thinking one thing, adjustments. Now I'll give Womack some credit. He switched up his defense against South Carolina, which is a good sign. Kyle, three little words you and I have spoken about: pressure. Mm-hmm. How come when we pressure these quarterbacks, we do great, and when we don't, they pick us apart? Mm-hmm. I mean, does somebody have to put one of those, what are those suggestion boxes, Kyle? And we'll just put in, everybody stuff it with pressure. We'll just keep on putting the little slips of paper in. Mm-hmm. So there we go. I mean, here's my semi-rant, and I'm probably in between Coach Darrell and Mike, who I love. I love both of those guys. I'm glad Mike's out. So listen, it's early in the week, and I here go with Mike. We're 5-1. And have I been, also been one of these guys who has been like a naysayer in the chat when we're watching, like we're going to lose? Yeah, I was flipping out, Kyle. I mean, let's just, who wasn't? So anyway, there's my little minor rant. But listen, 5-1, and I'm, Kyle, how did I start the show with you? This week is huge.
Yeah.
And we're going to know a lot. On when we're the watch party, the after party, the Sunday morning, next Monday. Now, can we be, if it goes our way, can we be like with Mike? And if it doesn't go our way, can we be with Darrell? Well, I think we probably should still be in the middle with me, but but anyway, Kyle, great show. I'm looking forward to these interviews with the coaches, because I didn't like what Womack did last week. That was like, what's he, a politician? He didn't answer any of the questions. So, all right, listen, great show, Kyle. Roll Tide undefeated, and we will talk soon, brother.
All right, man. Take it easy. That was Chris out in New Jersey. 334 and 903. You're up next. Hang tight. I'm going to take calls up until 11:30. That's when we got either Kane Womack or Nick Sheridan. Those guys will hit the podium, and then Coach Kalen DeBoer up at 12. It'll be right here on our YouTube channel. PK in with a $10 super chat. Hey, PK, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the super chat and the support. This is the weakest defense in 17 years. When was the last time you saw a team open the game, the second half, and drive down the field on a 10, 18-play drive for touchdowns? 3 defensive linemen isn't working, 3-3-5. And I was kind of like compounding on that, and I'll get to my calls in just a second, is like, I think when you look at coaching schematics, I think Vanderbilt did a really good job out coaching Kane Womack in the Vanderbilt game. And I think even if you rewind to the second half of that Georgia game, I think Kirby Smart made better second half adjustments. And I think South Carolina, I think it was a kind of a combo of some adjustments. And I think it was just the energy just wasn't there in that sort of game. I do think that, maybe they made some adjustments, but I didn't feel like they got like out coached. Like I felt like they got out coached in the second half and against Vanderbilt. I didn't feel like that against South Carolina. That game had a bunch of weird energy to it. Corey McAdams in with a $5 super chat. Appreciate it. Shouldn't be Bama fans concerned with they have a coach that wins games but hasn't shown an ability to sustain a dominant program anywhere in football in the FBS. Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of points to like the first year growth and like taking over Coach Saban, right? And they are 5-1, right? I mean, they've had to come back in 3 consecutive games. I think I kind of point to, what D over here, the NILs, creative parity. Anyways, man, I appreciate the support of the show, man. Thanks for the super chat. 334, you're up. Hey, thanks for being patient.
Hey,
you're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Ronnie from Opelika.
Hey, Ronnie, what's up, man? I appreciate you calling in from Opelika, man. Come with it. Go ahead.
Okay, I looked through Kalen DeBoer's season. Last season, he had 8 one-score games, 15-1, 14-1 record, whatever it was.
Wow.
8 one-score games, and then 2 more. He had a 9-point win and a 10-point win. But all of those, you need to take your blood pressure medicine, guys, if you have it. Because he's used to doing close games. He's okay with it.
Yeah.
And a thing about this team, 3/4 of this team are used to having their fires lit. And the lighter was Nick Saban. It's the granddaughter of a lady that goes to church with me, and I go to church in Auburn. Her daughter is on scholarship at the University of Alabama, and her boyfriend was one of the football players from last year. And when he came to church, I asked him, because at halftime, what would happen? Did they come out like a totally different team? He said Nick Saban would light them up at halftime. That's why they came out and played different. So calling Malachi Moore, we need your help. Light this team up. At halftime or whenever they need it, and team captains back him up. They're not used to the laid back, you light your own fire. The true freshman class maybe be different, but the ones that Saban coach, they're used to having that fire lit.
Yeah, and I think like kind of when I go back to like Malachi's actions, and we talked about that, but I was like, I think he's like, they missed that, intensity. Somebody like completely like getting this team going. I mean, they showed what was interesting on social media is like Coach Saban winning 42-3 and how like he was like pissed off like a false start, right? And kind of just the different between the coaches. And I think that kind of points to like we're just not accustomed to, how Coach Kalen DeBoer carries himself. He seems positive always, which is kind of nice, but sometimes you'd like to see kind of the fire in the belly. I don't know. I mean, he's winning. He's 5-1. What else you got, Ronnie?
That's it.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you calling in. Good point out, and take the blood pressure medicine, man. It's I would assume there's more tight games coming.
That's what it looks like.
All right, man. Ronnie, take it easy. Roll Tide to you. 903. Let's go. Hey, thanks for being here. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
This is Quincy. How you doing?
Quincy, what's up, man? I appreciate you calling in, man. Thanks for joining the show today, and come with it, man. Welcome on in.
Okay. A couple things. I don't want to hear no excuses. Throw them out the window. Let's just stop that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was 11 o'clock in the morning game. That's no excuse. You knew the schedule from the beginning of the season. Let's stop with that one right now. And practice, you're supposed to practice in the morning. You've been doing it our whole lives. You practice football in the morning, and then you go again in the evening. They call tour days.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. Let's not hear about the practice in the morning. Another thing, Cal. So, if you got a defense that you know is struggling, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the best solution? Keep the defense off the field.
Time of possession.
Yes. So that's what you do. You keep the defense off the field, run the ball, have long, successful drives.
Mm-hmm.
Get that defense. But when you down here trying to make long passes all the time and not playing smash mouth football, then put your defense on the field, you become vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a contact league.
Mm-hmm.
They ran some of the same Vanderbilt ran, and it was successful.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to change it up. I was sitting watching the game, and I could tell you some of the plays that was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Babe, this is an interception. He's trying to force it down there." What happened?
Yeah.
He threw the interception.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it coming, forcing things. And 18 carries by the QB. I know we talk about this all the time, Cal.
Mm-hmm.
But 8 carries for your QB, 2-point average, 2 yards a carry, that's too many carries for a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He almost got hurt when they was down there close to the goal line. He tried to run in. His leg got twisted up a little bit. And he paused getting up.
Yeah.
He almost got hurt.
I saw that. Yeah.
And I told you about 2 weeks ago, I said, man, that's going to get him hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He has got to stop running the ball. That's what you have, those backs back there run the ball. People say, oh, we can't run the ball. You're not going to never be able to run the ball when you're not consistently doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Both of your running backs, Jamari had 12 carries, averaging 3.5 yards a carry. Justin Haynes had 8 carries, averaging 3.2 yards a carry. What did South Carolina do? They kept running the ball with their running back. They kept running the ball. Another thing, blitz the quarterback. Blitz the quarterback. Put pressure on them. That's what. And I don't know what's up with our D-line. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to tell you something. That dude Kennard over there from South Carolina, he was a one-man wrecking crew.
Yeah.
He was doing whatever, however he wanted, and whenever he wanted.
And he's kind of like he's like an average quarterback. I mean, he didn't necessarily look average, but I mean, if you look statistically and kind of where he's at, I mean, like for example, like I didn't even expect him to throw a touchdown, to be honest. So because he doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns, like that's just not part of his game. And that's
why I was mentioning earlier, a couple weeks ago when we talked last week. I said, man, if we play a decent QB, we're gonna be in trouble. We're gonna be in trouble. A guy that can throw the ball a little accurate and run, we're gonna be in trouble.
Yo.
Our defense is just not there. He's sitting back in the zone, and then just giving them. We're not getting the pass rush, and they're just picking us apart.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna work, man. not going to work. So there's no adjustments made. I think the offensive play calling is stagnant. Running the ball between the tackles. They are going to get tired. I notice our offensive line can block for the run. Pass? No. But run block? Yes. We can do that. And I don't want to hear no more excuses about time and all this kind of stuff. But that's where coaching come in. That's not the players.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Saban has guys ready to play every freaking Saturday. He had them ready to play. And you knew you better be ready or he'll take you out. Put somebody else in.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and you well know, it's just too loose around there. I've told you that. I know personally. And it's just too loose. He's got to tighten up the screws.
Mm-hmm.
So the door come off if he don't tighten it up.
No. All right, appreciate the call, Q. Yeah, thanks for calling in, Quincy. I appreciate you, man. All right, take it easy.
Yes, sir.
All right. 601, you're up next. Hey, what's going on? You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Hey, good morning, Kyle. Jay from Pensacola.
I thought that was you, the 601, man. What's up, Jay? I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much. What's up, man? Come with it, man. Go ahead. And again, I'm taking calls up until like 11:30. And then we'll switch over to Coach Walmack or Sheridan, whoever they have, hit the podium. And then I got Coach Kalen DeBoer up at 12. So that's what's coming up right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Jay, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I'll be short and sweet so somebody else get in. I got a few statements. In my first statement, Nick Sheridan, Kane Womack, Kalen DeBoer are not from the ACC. They never coached the SEC, don't know nothing about ACC, and you can see that. My next statement is we've been out-coached the last past 2 games, and it shows. That's embarrassing. But I'm rolling with the tide all the way. And I just got 2 questions. You said during the game that Nick Sheridan has been play call has been up and down.
Yeah.
How much different is that than Tommy Rees? Tom Rees had good games. At LSU, that was a good game. Tennessee, that was a good game. The second half. So Tommy Rees, what's the difference? And how different is Kane Womack than Pete Golden? And that's all I got. That's concerning. But that's what I got.
All right, Jay. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for calling in. All right. Jay with a short and sweet call from Pensacola. Yeah. Yeah, because I think I said this during the watch along. I'll take one more call before we get to the videos. 404, hang tight. I mentioned this, it was just my observation. I feel like Nick Sheridan has some really good plays and some really good sequences, and then it doesn't make sense. Like things are just, they don't work quite well. And what I mean by that is I look at the first couple of drives against Georgia. I look at the first drives against like South Carolina. That was magnificent. That first drive that Alabama, and I get it, the first drives are scripted. I thought it was beautiful. I was like, damn. I think I even said on the watch along, I was like, they're going to beat these guys by, 40 points. And then there was at times where like it would be a short yardage situation, whatever, and they'd go empty. And like Q was saying, run the ball. Well, they would run the ball, but they do it with Jalen Milroe. I would rather them, run it with one of their bigger running backs. I mean, Jam's he's a big dude. So, I don't know. Those are kind of some of the things that I have question marks about Nick Sheridan and his offensive play calling. But those are just, I don't know if I'm nitpicking on that stuff, but that's just something I mentioned. All right, we'll take this 404 real quick. Hey, what's going on? You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. How are you doing today? Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Shit, this is Isaiah. I'm from Georgia.
Isaiah, what's up, man? Welcome on in.
All right, man. Me personally, I'm not harping too much on the offensive play calling. I feel like we getting caught up on actually running Jalen Milroe too much, as you stated earlier. I feel like when we need to sustain drives, we need to use Richard Young. Don't get me wrong. I love Justice Hayes, but the offense is less productive when Justice Hayes is in the game. And it's more productive when Jam Miller is in the game because he's a physical runner who does not just get the ball and try to be patient and wait on the hole to open up. He actually goes and attacks and makes a hole for himself. And I feel like we should play Richard Young way more because his physicality is actually needed in helping us sustain some drives. Because as of right now, we continue to call plays the way that we're calling them. Jalen Milroe won't make it to the end of the season. He won't make it because we're running him way too much. And we're running him on, obviously, when the defense knows that we're going to run him. I'm not saying don't use his legs as a weapon. I'm saying use his legs for more than him just being able to run, like moving the pocket, sliding the pocket to changing the launch points on some of these passes, things of that nature. I can't lie, man. I am upset with Milroe. I feel like he could do way better. Like, I feel like his pocket awareness, I thought that it would be better. I thought his pocket awareness would be better. But the offense overall is pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Like, we put up explosive plays and things of that nature. But the defense, I don't understand. The whole coaching staff as a whole, to me, is horrible. I'm not even going to lie. I love Kalen DeBoer, his offensive mindset and things of that nature, but it's like, at what point do you look at yourself and say, okay, I need to adjust? Like, one thing about good coaching is it's like chess. Even if it's working, you still have to tell yourself, okay, the defense is going to make adjustments. Okay, what adjustments could they possibly make? And then you make adjustments off of the adjustments that the defense will possibly make. So in that Georgia game, they went to a 3-3-5 defense. That's what gave us problems. I don't know if a lot of people noticed that, but they went to a 3-3-5 on defense. They went to 3 down linemen, 3 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs, which opens up the power running game. Like, we should have just power ran the ball down their throat. Like, we should not have even try to spread it out. No, we're gonna power run because you're playing 3 down defensive linemen and you're playing 3 linebackers. Like, there's no way or reason that we shouldn't have just power ran the ball on Georgia in the second half because of the 3-3-5 that they were playing. They actually went to the 3-3-5 at the end of the first half to see would it cause confusion within our offense. And when they seen that he did, Coach Kirby, smart, he came out with that in the second half and used that 3-3-5 defense.
Hey,
and
Isaiah, Isaiah, call again, man. This is a really good call, by the way. Thank you for calling in. I'm just pressed up against time. I got Kane Womack and Nick Sheridan calling in, but I appreciate you, man, and please call again next time, Isaiah. Thank you very much for the call from Georgia.
All right, appreciate you, Kyle.
No doubt. Roll Tide to you. That was a really good call. I think Isaiah is a first-time caller. We're pressed against time, so we got the guys coming in. So let's get to it. This is courtesy of the University of Alabama. So I'm gonna hide behind the screen, but you guys, see you guys in the chat box, and then I'll come back on and close out after Coach Kalen DeBoer. They should appear momentarily, so I'll be in the chat with you guys.
I will go ahead and just take questions right away for Coach Sheridan. Leave your hands up if you will. Let's start on the left here with Colin.
Hey, Nick. How have you seen, I guess, Jalen Milroe has seen a lot of more pressure. How have you, like over the past few weeks, he's going to see a stout defensive line in Tennessee this Saturday. What have you seen in his decision-making when, teams are pressuring him more? How has he kind of responded to, I guess, the weight of, sack opportunities, tackles for loss, things like that?
Yeah, I think Jalen has responded great in those moments. I think there's always going to be plays where you wish you could do something different. I think that's the nature of playing the position. And so there were some learning opportunities that, occurred in the game this past week and that occur every game, where choices you make, decisions you make that work out, in your favor, and maybe it wasn't the right decision, and so you still learn from there. And then obviously, when the result isn't what you want, relative to the end of the play, you learn, you grow, you improve, you have conversations and communication of why that happened. And there's always a story to every, poor decision or every mistake that you make. And so we just talk through that, learn, grow, improve, and try to, get better throughout the week of prep, and try to put them in, not just Jalen, but all the other players, in positions where, things that you didn't execute as well as you'd like, you put them in that position in practice so you can improve and get better.
Jump to the right side here, Nick.
Hey, Nick, you have been on the other side of this rivalry going back to your GA days there. What stands out to you about the third Saturday in October?
I think just the passion, the intensity of the game, that's what stands out the most. The environments that you compete in are as good as it gets in college football, and so that's what stands out the most in this game.
Jump over to the left, Katie.
What have you seen or maybe liked about the depth at wide receiver when you've had some guys out with Kendrick and Kobe missing a little bit of time?
Yeah, I've appreciated the efforts of the guys, and playing multiple spots and having to learn different positions. I think Coach Shep has done a great job of that. I think you see Caleb Odom just continuing to grow and learn multiple spots, playing different, positions on the field. Cole obviously had some big plays in the game. And so, with just the rotation of players that are up each week, obviously Ryan and Germ have been steady and productive for us, but I think the depth of that room has certainly helped us. E-Man has had some good moments. And so, I know there's other guys too that I'm probably leaving out, but I think it's a deep room, and they're improving each and every week. And Coach Shep's doing a great job of mentoring, molding, coaching, all of the above. And I think, those guys have contributed and helped us for sure.
Go to the back of the room, Ryan.
Coach, how pleased are you with the run game so far? And obviously you want to see more no matter what, but what's the ceiling for this backfield?
I wouldn't ever probably use the word pleased. I don't think in any area really. We're always trying to improve. I thought, we took strides running the ball in the game this past week. We had some negative yardage plays that really kind of skewed the numbers that way, but I thought there was some really strong, tough physical runs by both Jam and Justice in the game. And so there was things to be encouraged by how we ran the ball at times. I think across the board, we're looking for consistency. That's in all areas. There were certainly things that we can do better, both in the run game and in the pass game from this past week. And every week presents new challenges, and so, you flip the page, you go to the next week, you start, breaking down the next opponent and the things that you're going to have to do to be successful, and that is in all areas offensively. But I thought there was some physicality up front. I thought there was some tough running that occurred. We have to eliminate the negative yardage plays that obviously hurt us in the game. And so I saw strides. I wouldn't use the word pleased, but I would say that there was improvement made.
Go to Ariel, all the way back in the middle.
Coach, sticking with the upfront unit, what is maybe the message to those guys concerning quarterback protection leading up into Tennessee?
I didn't, just being very blunt and honest, I thought that we did a nice job, big picture, blocking, this past week in pass pro. Some of the issues that we had protectionally were a little bit more schematic than they were individual. And so I was proud. I thought there was a tough task last week with the two edge rushers that we were going against, and I was really, by and large, pleased with the effort on the edges and inside. It wasn't perfect. There were certainly a few they were a little bit more schematic or quarterback location in the pocket. And so I thought by and large that the guys up front did a nice job in pass pro. Like I said, some of the issues that we had or the sacks that occurred were a little bit more schematic than they were, one-on-one breakdowns.
Emily Grace, right in the middle there.
Coach, what do you feel like the next progression point is for Jalen that you want to see him meet in these next few weeks?
I think each week is a new challenge. I think you're just continuing to grow, continue to learn. we talk to the players every week that every time you go out there on the field, you send a message or an invitation. And so, when you have things that you do well, you're sending a message to the other team that this is something that we're really good at. And when you struggle with something, any player, any scheme, any coach, then you're inviting them to try to see if you fixed it. And so I think that occurs each and every week for us. And so Jalen's no different, our whole offensive unit, things that we have done well. Obviously, the opponent is looking at that and trying to find ways to slow you down in those areas. And then things that you struggled with or have, not executed as cleanly, they're going to, try to show you, see if you've improved in those areas. So I think for all of us, it's identifying the things that we need to be better at and trying to fix those issues as you move to the next game.
Any other questions for Coach Sheridan? Starting with our last one here, right?
Just when you watch film of Tennessee, what stands out about their defense, particularly their front seven?
I would just say the size and athleticism. I think there's depth up front. I think they're very well coached. I have familiarity with the coaches on that staff and have a tremendous amount of respect for them. But I think the depth, the size, the speed, the athleticism, they're excellent, and obviously have been very productive. I think they've been, outstanding in critical moments, short yardage situations, red zone situations, some of the plays that not just the front, but the entire unit, they've really risen up and made some really quality plays in some critical moments that have kept teams, out of the end zone. And it's impressive, both for their coaches to get their players to perform at a high level in those moments, and certainly for the players to execute at those times. It's been impressive to see, on film. Okay, roll Tide.
All right, same routine. We'll have Coach begin with his opening statement, and then we'll take questions. Whenever you're ready, Coach.
Okay, certainly, when you look at the game the other day, I thought pleased to get the win, to be able to fight and battle the way that our guys are fighting right now. It was special to find a way to come up with an interception to win a game. We've gotten to do that twice now, and those are always rewarding for a defense. They're always special moments, right, to be able to step up when it matters most. And certainly we were able to do that in the game. I think our guys have an appreciation for finding a way to win, and yet players and coaches alike, there's certainly an urgency to continue to build and grow as a football team so that we can be the team that we feel like we are capable of being as we continue to navigate through SEC play. We had from a chance defensively to be explosive. We had 13 game changers. 12 was our goal. 4 takeaways, 4 sacks, 3 3-and-outs, and then 2 fourth-down stops, including a missed field goal. From what we call the double positives, the explosive plays given up, and then the turnover margin. We had 9 explosives on offense. We gave up 5 on defense. We gave up 1 explosive run and 4 passes. And then obviously we won the turnover margin by +2. So that really probably being the key to the game as much as anything from a defensive perspective is when you can take the ball away from somebody 4 different times, that's certainly going to make it hard to be able to navigate against. I thought as the game went on, they had some really good wrinkles, and I thought we adjusted pretty well to some of those things. They were doing some different run game out of 12 personnel that they had not shown. Dow Loggins, their offensive coordinator, has always done a tremendous job. Had some different wrinkles that they were doing, and I thought we adjusted to that pretty well on the fly. Credit our defensive staff and our players for making those adjustments, and it gave us a chance to get off the field on 3rd down in the second half. But we did not do that nearly to the consistency that I think that we are capable of, or that we need to be in order to be a consistent defense. We started out the first half, we went 5-0 on 3rd down, got off the field, and then gave up a 4th and 9, which is just obviously an unacceptable play and an error on our part from a execution standpoint. And then we started off the second half going 0 for 5 on 3rd down, and then came back and went 3 for 5 in the last 5 3rd downs. And so that continues to be an area where we are not operating at an optimum level. If we want to be the defense that I think we are capable of being, we have to execute at a more consistent level on 3rd down. When you look at it, there certainly were some challenging things that USC presented for us, but particularly on 3rd down, it was a lack of execution on our part. Putting our eyes in the right place, doing our job at a consistent level. And so those are things that we've got to continue to do. And that's not just in pass coverage. Some of it was in pass rush. I do think we took some steps in the right direction from a pass rush standpoint, where we were able to generate pressure on the quarterback. I think that's part of why we were able to get takeaways in the game. We were able to get sacks in the game, but we're still not optimizing our ability to rush as a unit on a consistent basis, and then play coverage on a consistent basis on 3rd down, and particularly in 4th down. So those are certainly the areas that we've got to emphasize as we moving forward, as we navigate ourselves moving forward into playing Tennessee. With that, looking ahead to Tennessee, I think Josh Heupel's just done a fantastic job over the last few years with their program. I think they have continued to improve the overall talent level of their roster. I think they are playing with more depth as a football team. And then, there's a number of explosive playmakers that they can get the ball to. I think their running back is elite. I think he has done Sampson, I believe, right, is his last name. Really impressive what he's been able to do. I think he's dynamic with the ball in his hand. He's got really good patience in their run schemes. He will make guys miss at the point of contact, constantly creating yards after contact as well. And then some very explosive athletes on the outside that when they've been able to get the ball out there to them, they've had tremendous success on offense. And that's something that, they are a team that on any given down can create an explosive play. And so that's something that we're going to have to be very mindful of. We're going to have to be very thorough as a defense. And I think ultimately it's going to be about our consistency doing the same high-level job over and over again in order to play, at an optimum level on Saturday. So looking forward to the competition, looking forward to going to Neyland Stadium. And we're going to have a great week of practice and preparation to get ready for it.
Thanks, Coach. Let's start on the right side with Charlie.
Yeah, hey, Coach, kind of a two-part question. Just how would you assess your defense's tackling, and where do you stand on maybe when players stand defenders up trying to get the ball out rather than just trying to take them to the ground?
Yeah, I think fine line, to answer your second question first, I think there's a fine line there of trying to create takeaways, right? The first man to the ball always needs to make sure that he is securing the tackle. Second man, right, can work to a position to be able to try to get the ball out. More often than not, you see creating a takeaway or a fumble with maybe at the point of attack. Usually when a guy gets wrapped up, he starts to secure the ball at a little bit higher level. That's not always the case. Sometimes with a quarterback or somebody trying to work to get out of the pocket, from a quarterback in the pocket standpoint. But for us, I think we've got to continue to harp on the fundamentals of how we're tackling. When we don't operate with a hard shoulder tackle, all of a sudden we're giving up some yards after contact. I think we have been inconsistent from a tackling standpoint. A lot of that is making sure that we're leveraging the ball properly in vision coverage and that we're driving to the ball. So now, there's less space, right, that we can take away from before the ball, the guy even starts to get going. So I think there's certainly room for error. That improvement there, that's something that you constantly are going to continue to work throughout the season, and teams like Tennessee are going to force you to make space tackles over and over again. So it's critical that we continue to improve.
Left side, Chase.
When Arkansas held Tennessee to 14 points a couple weeks ago, they did it playing a lot of dime. You don't seem to be the biggest fan of playing 6 DBs, but when Tennessee goes empty with their vertical threats and the receivers get those splits all the way out to the sideline, does that force any DC to look at playing dime?
Well, I think I think when you look at what this team is, this is a run football team. They are spreading you out with their receiver splits so that they can establish one-on-ones in the run game, and that they can basically say, they're going to separate the pass coverage from the box responsibility and who's leveraging those plays. So for us, based off of the different personnel groupings they have and based off the formations that they're going to come out in, we're going to have to be able to defend the lateral space and the vertical space on the outside, but also make sure that we're leveraging the box, because this is a run football team. They want to establish the run, and then they set that up to take shots downfield. So I think for us, you don't want to get too far away from home base, who you are and what you do. But from a personnel package standpoint, we're always going to look at, whatever we think is the optimal, scheme and personnel to get our players in the right position.
Yeah, having coached against USF in week 2, how does that help you in preparation for facing Tennessee now?
Well, I think, you look at a lot of the things that we have to do through the week of preparation. One of the hardest things to do when you're dealing with a team that has non-traditional formations and the wide splits, and they're going tempo as fast as you've seen from anybody you face, being able to manufacture that in practice every day is the hardest thing, that we have to do. And so our scout teams have gotten reps at some of those things. We've looked at what worked well that week and what we needed to improve on, just in terms of the look that we had to give. And so that probably as much as anything is a help. Certainly there's things that, that we put on tape, right, that they're going to look at, we're going to look at. But really each game is even though they're in the same system, and it is the same system, what Tennessee is doing versus what South Florida is doing, there are enough differences there, and they have different identities in terms of what they're trying to get accomplished. So, certainly from a week of preparation, that'll be something that's huge for our scout teams.
Alex in the middle there.
When you see the errors in execution, does it cause you to pull back on what you'd like to call as the play caller? And then just how do you think about the value of just simplicity versus throwing a bunch of wrinkles at an opponent?
Yeah, no, that's ultimately the give and take that we're trying to look at every single week. What can we go execute at a high level and do it consistently, and yet still have enough wrinkles that we're not a vanilla defense that teams feel like, okay, they're able to lock in and attack. And I think, early on we showed a few different things to set some things up as we navigated into SEC play. So now we've started to show more of those wrinkles. We were able to show a lot more this past week as from a standpoint of some pressures and some little nuances and changeups that we had not shown before, and we'll keep throwing some of those wrinkles in as we go. That's one of the things that are an advantage, right? As a first-year defense, right? There's always going to be some wrinkles and things that you go and throw in. I felt like in the game, you want to make sure that you are simple enough, right, so that our players can go execute. That's constantly the battle that we're looking at. Okay, what are we doing on third down and fourth down that we didn't execute well enough? Okay, well, is it if it's an execution issue, is it something that we can call differently? We limit some of the things that we're calling. We get really good at this, or we're going to manufacture some pressure through something else from a scheme perspective. So. I don't mean to be too vague, but I also don't want to give away the house there. But I think there's a fine line there of what we need to be able to do. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what we call. If we can't execute it to consistency, we're going to have a problem. Some of that is just the growing pains of a new defense in year one, and that we're going to have to continue to work through. So you can't sit there and throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, right? Where all of a sudden now you're saying, hey, I'm going to get rid of this call that's been very beneficial for us over the years, and we're going to get rid of it because we didn't execute it well enough in week 2, 3, 4. When in week 6, 7, and 8, if we'll just continue to stay at our process, I think those things will come to fruition.
Stay on the left side with Katie.
What did you learn about your depth at corner when Damani was out for a little bit in that game? We saw some of the younger guys rotating in, and then just kind of how vital is Damani's experience at that position?
Well, I mean, Damani's experience has shown up in a number of ways, and he stepped up in some big moments. Obviously, having the interception at the end of the game, credit him coming back from getting banged up in the game and to be able to fight back. I think, Damani is operating with a lot of maturity, a lot of mental toughness. And then, he has really kind of helped set the tone for that room, along with Coach Lindquist is doing a tremendous job with those young players and building continuity in their technique and their fundamentals so that they can go out and execute to the highest level of their ability right on game day. And so, when a couple of guys go down and those guys have to be called upon, you're either ready or you're not, right? And so for those guys, I thought it was good for them to get in there to get some meaningful quality reps. I think Jalen Mbakwe stepped up in some really big moments as well, and so encouraged to see some of that youth gain experience in meaningful SEC games.
Two-part question. When you went back and watched the fourth down touchdown conversion, what did you see that led to that coverage bust, and what type of teaching moment does that present?
Yeah, so often what happens in coverage, right, is a domino effect of one player doesn't do something, so now another player gets ready to compensate for it, and then all of a sudden, you may have taken away their first or second read, but ultimately if you give the quarterback time, right, we're going to have an issue. And so doing our job, our 1/11th of the defense is critical, right? And that's something that we keep, harping on to our players of, make sure that you are focused on your responsibility and your job within the framework of the defense, and trust that everyone else is going to do their job as well. And so we had a breakdown in terms of, playing over top of a route that we should have been expanding on in that particular coverage. But there were other pieces that did not help in terms of being where they needed to be at the beginning of the play, so that we could leverage things out properly in terms of our spacing in that coverage. And then, again, I think our pass rush has taken some really great steps, but also when you're not getting pressure and you're giving time for those long developing plays on third down, that makes it challenging as well. So a little bit of across the board, right? You've got to continue to operate consistency, and it's all 11 guys doing their job, or often in those critical moments, something's going to break down.
We got time for 2 more questions. We're going to start with Tony here on the left.
The last 2 weeks, we've seen teams kind of hit you with that inside shovel. How difficult is that to defend, and how do you kind of correct that moving forward?
I think that that particular play, we've seen, I guess, probably Tebow and those guys at Florida were one of the first ones that started doing that in the, what was that, the late 2000s, and it's kind of been sprinkled in. When teams sprinkle it in just here and there, it's really challenging for your guys up front, some of their eye progression, because you're getting an action at you that looks like sprint out for a quarterback or option for a quarterback, and then all of a sudden they're pitching the ball back underneath behind us trying to pursue. And so you've got to be very disciplined, very detailed in doing that, and then obviously your backside pursuit has to be able to fit and get back over top. So it's a challenging play. It's a really good wrinkle. It's one that we're probably going to continue to see every single week, and so we're looking at the different ways that they can do those plays and that they can run those things so that we can be prepared, for what nobody's going to do it exactly the same way necessarily, right? But they're going to have their own nuance, and so it's again, it's a hard play that we've got to get prepared for.
Let's finish up with Colin here, left side.
Hey, Kane. We were talking a lot about early in the season about Quay Rusa, kind of his development. I'm curious, over the past few weeks, what have you seen from his development? Seems like he's not seen as many snaps over the course of the past few weeks. What have you seen from his development?
Yeah, Quay, obviously it was getting healthy the last couple of weeks here. Has gotten himself into a position to where I think he's healthy and back and ready to go. And so we had him on a little bit of a pitch count, as we were working through these last couple of weeks. Feel like he's in a really good position moving forward. I think he continues to do some really good things on film, and so excited about kind of his full week of preparation, being a little bit, more 100%, if you will. I don't know if anybody's ever 100% as you go through the season, but healthier than he was the last couple of weeks. And so I have been pleased with some of the things that he's doing when he does get in the games, and I think that he has a chance, to create some impact in meaningful moments.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. Roll Tide.
All right, we'll have Coach begin with his opening statement. Again, just leave your hands up, and we'll get questions after that. Coach, whenever you're ready.
Yep, you bet. Good morning, and just rolling from South Carolina to Tennessee. Guys, start the week, as we always do with Sunday, and just, bringing a good mindset, putting the work into the workouts, wanting to, continue to always learn and get better from the things that happen on a Saturday, and a lot of highlights. Obviously, a lot of things that we always got to continue to clean up, and it's in all phases of the game. But moving to Tennessee, we know we're really looking forward to exciting. Obviously, this game is a big deal to to fans and obviously to us, and we understand that's the case for them as well. So looking forward to a really high level, heightened week with preparation and a big game on Saturday.
Thank you, Coach. Let's start with Nick, front right.
Yeah, following up about Tennessee, what have you been told about this rivalry, or what have you seen from it, maybe from afar?
Yeah, I've been told it's a big deal, and I know it's a big deal. You see it from afar, and it's these are the games, much like we've had already won a couple here. And just they're the big ones that are on the schedule. I mean, as a coach, they're all big, right, in different ways, and you take one at a time. But we certainly understand the significance of the rivalry, and guys are going to be very motivated to go out and do their best and prepare well and be great on Saturday.
Charlie?
Just sitting at the midway point in the regular season, how would you assess the defense's play from an execution standpoint?
Yeah, I think there's every week something a little different that presents itself. I know the last couple of weeks, the big thing that's been focused on has been getting off the field. And so, you look at yards per play, and we're making some teams earn it, but we just got to get off the field. And when those drives continue to stack on top of each other, and there's more plays that your defense is having to play, you know, it starts to wear you down and a little bit more. I think our guys, you know, fortunately we rotate enough in to where we can hang in there for 4 quarters. But you know, there's always going to be little elements, and it's not just defense, but it's offense and areas that, you know, are going to pop up, and the way people attack and the way someone may view your schemes or your personnel. And so, you know, you continue to work on those things that we know we got to get better at and emphasize, but we also got to be ready for those other things too that just are part of the game, and making sure we got the answers, whether it's schematics or just that our guys are confident going out there and playing. This is part of the process. This is part of the progress that's got to be there when you're instituting new systems. I was thinking, you know, I saw this, it must have been South Florida week, and I was sitting there watching last year's game, and I've had this happen everywhere I've been, but, you know, you look at a play call, all right, and I happened to watch the South Florida game of us versus them last year, and the play calls from last year are on that play, and those play calls have the same names, right? It's just called something different. But there might be play calls that are called something a year ago that are something completely opposite or different in your system. And now, you know, that's just something that's just part of the progress is guys processing. You're throwing something new at our guys to add to our schemes, to add to our concepts and the depth of what we do each and every week. And then they also have to do what we're doing and execute well against whatever we're seeing in front of us. And you try to find that fine balance on running what is your identity, what is your DNA of you know, the systems you run, but also continue to build on those maybe families of what you do well, or continue to just grow, you know, the entire offense, defense, special teams. So this is just part of it. Been through it many times. A lot of the ups and downs that you have, or maybe just execution didn't go as well as you want. You know, sometimes that's not the base stuff you do, but it's just the things that you know you have to continue to incorporate to continue to get to where you want to be, because it's got to be a volume of things over the course of a 12, 13, 14, or whatever the season is, and the length of it.
Go Chase, left side.
Coach Womack was asked this a minute ago, but I want to ask you as well. The shovel pass has hurt y'all defensively. Obviously, the last couple of games, South Carolina came back with 1 after Vanderbilt sprung 2. Just from a game planning standpoint, is that something you got to expect to see once a week until you get it stopped?
No question. I mean, and it's going to get thrown at you different ways, you know, the personnel or the formations that people line up in. You're going to try to find, you know, from an offensive standpoint, putting those, you know, shoes on and just trying to, you know, understand what that's going to look like in their scheme. And so it's going to be presented a different way. You know, it's 15, 20 years ago, I was running that quite a bit myself. It's because it's a play that, you know, you have to defend. And, you know, again, it might be presentation off of a boot. It might be presentation a sprint out option. But you got to identify where everyone's at. Everyone's got to fit their gaps. Apply your rules is really the significance of it. And, you know, people are going to use different things to try to really challenge your eye discipline as a defense. And that's one of the plays that obviously the last 2 weeks has been utilized in that way to challenge us in that regard.
Got a few questions from the back of the room. Ryan?
Coach, college football is based on a lot of traditions, a lot of games. To piggyback off what Nick asked you, what did you hear about this Tennessee game? And kind of a two-parter, are you a fan of cigars?
I know that this tradition goes back quite a ways. I know that cigars are a part of it. But I know that what I'm trying to do is just make sure we do our part as a football program and, you know, prepare so that people can celebrate and enjoy the rivalry on our end. And a lot of respect for Tennessee, their coaches, their players. But, you know, we're just pouring into the things we can control, what we can focus, and, you know, want to bring that joy to, you know, not just the hard work we put in personally and within this team, but also so our fan base can enjoy it as well.
Jonathan.
Hey, Coach, I believe just a few targets to Ryan Williams in the first 3 quarters of the game. As you guys go through conference play, how do you balance trying to get him the ball and also versus what the defense is maybe giving you?
Yeah, there's a couple more that, you know, we didn't get where it didn't get to him or get completed. Ones where we were really trying to be intentional, whether it's a screen or just a matchup one-on-one. There's another one or two where the ball in a progression very well could have got to him, just like the other plays that he's had throughout the season where he might not be the number one option, but the progression will a lot of times take you there. He's got to be a guy that we're always really paying attention to as far as the number of targets. And, I think for the most part, we understand who those guys are. And a lot of them are in the starting lineup and maybe just the next guys in, that you have to be really make sure in the game plan that they're involved. And so that will always be the case. We got to continue to emphasize that, something we always look at each and every week as we lay out the whole plan.
From the tape, what kind of challenges does Tennessee's quarterback present your defense this weekend?
Yeah, I think he's got he's a live arm, extremely talented. You can tell that they got the skill on the outside to where, they can hit the home run and make big plays anytime. I think a lot of it is just trying to disrupt him to where the continuity and the flow, is just not consistent. And that's going to be any quarterback every week. That's the goal, is to try to just really cause some chaos and change things up on them. They get into their tempo off of positive plays. And that's the key, is try to make sure that they don't get into that rhythm. Just like any offense, that's what you're trying to do. And he's talented. You can see it's there. He's still, I think, growing and developing. And we just got to make sure we disrupt him enough and make sure we're showing pictures and also getting bodies on the outside to where we make life hard like we would want to any other opponent.
Back on the left side of the room, Katie.
After Jalen threw that interception at the beginning of the fourth quarter, what did you see from him to kind of bounce back and put the mistakes behind him for the rest of the fourth quarter? And just, is that an area he's kind of matured in?
Yeah, and I'm really intentional with him because I know how hard he is on himself. And, this is really going back to, I wasn't with him last year, but I know in spring ball and just how he was, and knowing that we are, fighting for each other, fighting with each other. That's just not me and him. That's our football team. When we're in those moments, it's all about moving forward. No regrets when we walk off this football field, knowing we've given everything we've got, and that's just what I try to do when it comes to those times, not just with him, with our whole team, and those tight game moments, we're all in this together. And, we want to continue to learn. And so I'm going to remind him, coach him up on the situations we're in, how to apply the things we've talked about, throughout the course of our time together so far, how to learn what's happened in this game, and then just continue to move on. And we just keep stacking these moments on top of these moments. He'll remember, anything that happened this game. He's going to remember what happened to him, 4 weeks ago. And that's what I love about him. I mean, he is up here. He lives up here pretty much, wanting to be around the coaches. It's not just me, it's other staff members. And, just from my standpoint, to answer your question, I think, it's just a matter of continue to move forward, process, go 1-0, as you've heard many of our players say, and what that all means. Learn from it, flush it, play in the present, next play mindset.
You had a pure feature back with Dylan Johnson at Washington, but here it's obviously a little bit different with Jam and Justice, and obviously Jalen Milroe getting the football. With Jam and Justice, I think they're averaging 15 carries per game between the two of them. Is that kind of the number that you'd like to see? And does that limit them? Maybe that's the wrong word. Does it limit them in terms of the role they're able to get on as a running back when they're not fed consistently?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you want to have two. We were kind of more forced, as you referred to, Dylan, a year ago, to have that with some injuries to other guys. That number, I think we would love to see that be higher. Now, how come that number is lower? I think it gets taken from, some of J Mills' carries, which, how can you argue with some of that when you're rattling off the runs he's had? There's that fine line on using him and keeping him fresh and using these other guys. I thought Jam and Justice ran very hard. I thought the run game in the Georgia game, I thought we were very close to having some runs that really developed. And I thought there was another level of physicality by our offensive line and an execution that was just not just in practice, but also in the game this close. I thought that would really take the next step in the Vanderbilt game. Felt good about the week of practice because of the flow of the game. Again, probably not as many carries as in touches, but you can see there was an intentionality to what we were doing. And it wasn't just maybe in the run game. It's getting them out and doing different things with them. We've seen, touchdown catches and balls out on routes to both of them. They're very critical to our offense. They're extremely athletic. They can do it all. They're every down backs in their own right, and we need to continue to grow. And I think we took another step this week. I think South Carolina had a very strong defensive front, not just up front, but tying the linebacker core and how they fit. And that was going to be a challenge going in, and I thought we took another step in our physicality and our execution. Thought those guys ran hard as well.
Go to Emily Grace, right up the middle here.
Coach, what's the in-game adjustment process like between you and Coach Womack?
Yeah, I think the key in any game plan is to try to have really almost everything you have in the plan as far as your adjustments. Now, when you're on defense, I think there are some things that will pop up that you haven't seen on film, that you got to refer back to something that you've done with calls in the past, and you try to really minimize that as much, because the things you practice are the things the guys are comfortable with, especially week 5, 6, still as a new team with a new defensive scheme. And so, we don't have a lot of these banked reps from a year ago with all our guys, or even 10 or 11 games worth. It's new things that pop up, and we try to make the simplest adjustments to where our guys can still play fast. Down the road, this will all continue to bank as far as the reps we have, the experiences we have. We can recall on something that we did as an adjustment in the past, hopefully in the future, and execute quicker and better in the games ahead. But as far as the process between he and I, we're just constantly between series, talking on the phones real quick, just like I do with the offensive side, just hearing what the next move is, or for offense would be, hey, what are you thinking the next drive? What's the starter? What's your next third and medium, third and short, third and long? And then also defensively, what are some of those adjustments maybe in those situations, or how we think they're going to come out based on the flow of the situation in the game.
All right, let's finish up with Tony here.
Is it easier or harder to scout a team when it's struggling? Because you're going to get maybe some changes from them, but at the same time, maybe you're seing their weaknesses. What is it? Does it?
Are you referring to, obviously, what are you? Any opponent? Yeah. Okay. Well, that they're going through it, and I'm speaking really generally right now because that's the question. So, that they're going to continue to try to find the things that really work well for them, and you got to be ready for anything and everything. But I think at this point in the year, there's still going to be some type of basis that you work off of, and those added things. They got to execute them well too, and that's where we're at. We got things that we want to add in and continue to do, but we got to get enough reps at them in practice on top of the things that we already a part of our identity. Because if you can't execute it well in an SEC game when things are moving that fast and there's that many good players on the football field, that can backfire, that can hurt you. And so the key is making sure we do what we do, apply our rules and everything that we have, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, and then be disciplined with it. And that's, going to be the name of the game here, this week, every week, moving forward.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Roll Tide.
Fam, what's going on? Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys watching today's show. Thank you so much for supporting the content. Please give a thumbs up, and remember, you can watch all the remaining videos that I'm going to upload today. What to watch for? I'll be uploading different types of content throughout the day. I was thinking about something with the shovel passes. Clearly, I'm going to upload Josh Heupel's press conference as he talks about the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'll repackage some more videos that you'll see later today. Remember, you can follow us as well on Facebook, Alabama Crimson Tide on Facebook, and then everything as well is uploaded to our Spotify and our Apple podcast. So look for us over there. But I appreciate you guys supporting the content. Thank you so much to those that have super chatted and those that are our fan funders right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I hope you have a great rest of your Monday. The work actually starts now for me because this is when I have to, start, doing the, kind of the cut-ups of everything. So I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for supporting me. My Monday show is always at 10 to around 12:20, and then tomorrow live at 9 a.m., same through Tuesday through Friday, and, of course, live during game day. Thank you so much for believing in the product, supporting me. Look for us on Facebook, Alabama Crimson Tide on YouTube, and I appreciate you guys very much for being here right here on Bama Football on YouTube. From Hollywood, Alabama, this is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. Have a blessed Monday, and I'll catch up with you soon. Yo, believe in your team.